and we're gonna get a little update on insurance because it's kind of crazy in Florida right now, right?
You could say that. Florida accounted for almost 80% of claims lawsuits.
Insane.
There's some of our folks that are starting to struggle. Property taxes double, insurance doubles, their car insurance doubles, and it's like, this is frightening. Is the coast really that much more expensive than the center of the state? Are most of these companies cutting the line at 10-year roofs?
I think we hit rock bottom or grazed it, and I think we're headed further and further away from it.
Awesome. Well, you ready?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yes, yeah, whatever you want.
All right. Well, I mean, I'll go through these in a second, but let me see. I turn this on silent.
I'll tell you what, I'll try to sit back a little bit, maybe.
All right. Hey, everyone. So today we're with Adam Cellini, and we're going to get a little update on insurance. I know this has been top of mind for most people because it's kind of crazy in Florida right now, right?
You could say that. Yeah, let's put it lightly.
Unfortunately, my mom had some stuff that she had to do, so she won't be here. You guys are stuck with, the worse,
Well, the understudy, yeah. You don't have to say better, worse, just the understudy.
Stuck with me.
Ready to go.
Oh man, and I'll cut this out too, but I had food poisoning yesterday, and I feel like my brain is firing on like 2 cylinders right now.
You look pretty remarkable for a guy that had food poisoning 24 hours ago.
I feel good.
Yeah, for what it's worth. Holy smokes.
It was very rough. I had like a mobile IV person come by.
Okay.
And they have a food poisoning IV drip. I've never done that before. It was game changer.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to keep my eye out for something like that.
If it happens, I cannot suggest it enough.
That's big.
I thought I was gonna die, and then like this person came by. It took like 45 minutes. I'm just sitting on the couch. Like within the first 15, I was already back to life, like talking her ear off.
Shout out, man! Way to go.
All right. Well, so I guess I think probably a good place to start is sort of an overview. And it sounds like, and we chatted a little bit before we started, but it sounds like, this has kind of been a mess. And then there's sort of a positive note that this is headed towards or ending on.
Yeah.
I guess before we get into specific questions about what's going on, could you give us just sort of an overview of where things are and where things, like how they ended up the way they ended up?
Yeah, sure. I'll put a little context. I'm a bit of an optimist with this, probably because I haven't been in the industry. I haven't actually seen things go on this roller coaster. I mean, we're probably like looking at a capsule of 20 years, that sort of brought us to where we are today. It's a culmination of things. But I'm not, I guess I haven't been in it long enough to be as jaded as some of the industry is, and rightfully so in a way, if you've just been grinding. So I'm a bit of an optimist, but to your point, I do think, like, if I could illustrate it, like, I think we hit rock bottom or grazed it, and I think we're headed further and further away from it, as an industry. It's not a fast thing. It's kind of like losing weight. You're going to look in the mirror every day and you're not going to see a change, but if you pick your head up like 9 months from now, you're going to be like, oh yeah, it's way different than it was 9 months ago. So it's like very slow, very gradual changes, but that's my perspective of it. One massive kind of linchpin in all of this was about a year ago, so like December of 2022, the state of Florida held another special session on insurance specifically. They did, I think, 2 of these during the year because things were so bad. It was so highly publicized how rough it was that they held a special session, and they actually pushed through a new law, tons of twists and turns to it, and I'm not going to get into all the details, but they passed a new law that, among other things, addressed Florida's problem with claims lawsuits. Just some like loose data that I'm not going to reference, but I talk about it on the phones all the time, so maybe I should have this stuff more handy. But there was some data that came out 2021, 2022, and it was about the 10 years prior, and we could see from what was gathered, and this was done by the state of Florida, that Florida does not account for much more claims than the rest of the country. Like, Florida accounts for 8% of the country's insurance claims they found from this 10-year capsule that they pulled. California is really similar, 8%. 2 states in kind of perilous positions, but Florida accounted for almost 80% of claims lawsuits, like claims litigation, which is like a staggering number of the whole country. So 80% of the entire country's claims lawsuits are coming from Florida. That's clearly like a unique and different issue.
Yeah.
And it's not even really like bad intention, you know. It's like I'm not here, and I'm not a believer that like every attorney out there is acting in bad faith or trying to, you know, do this to the state. I think they had an opportunity to, you know, fight for a client, and they did it, and they were winning at a massive rate. There's some bad actors, you know, like anything, but the carriers aren't blameless either, right? Like the carriers paid out claims that maybe they shouldn't have, because that was the easy thing to do then, and then it just, you know, it snowballed into a huge financial strain on the marketplace.
Let me ask you this, because you're saying 80% of the claims are coming out of Florida, or the litigation. So is that like following a hurricane, or is that year over year?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, so to like kind of illustrate that more, like you submit a claim, carrier either denies the claim or they come back with a number, but you know, you feel like they're wrong, right? The litigation is how you kind of defend yourself against an insurance company in that situation, which you should have the ability to do that, right? As a client, you shouldn't just have to always take what the company tells you at face value. Like, you should have a channel to dispute that. What a lot of people don't realize, and maybe more now will, is that the state of Florida has a system where you can dispute, you know, if you felt like you've been mistreated by your insurance company. They also review and will investigate insurance companies, and they do it for free. Like, you don't have to pay an attorney for that. You go directly to the state and they'll do that for you. They have a system for that. But they also don't have billboards everywhere on I-4 and, you know, across the state, like saying, you know, you want to sue your insurance company or need more money from your insurance company. I mean, it's such an easy thing to market, and especially down here.
Size matters.
You could throw a rock and hit an advertisement about
so the Morgan & Morgan size matters. Or whatever.
Exactly. I mean, you know,
they're all over the place.
I mean, that's it. Like, you know, like a name like that is top of mind because they do advertise well, and the state doesn't advertise what it has well. But anyways, so you submit a claim. You don't agree with the result that came back. Litigation is usually, you know, the last step to kind of trying to get what you feel like is, you know, you're justified to get. And it's, you know, it just kind of went from, you know, that was a tool to it went from, like, I think there's people that, like, I'll take car insurance, for example. I think there's people in the state that don't realize you can go through a car insurance claim without an attorney. You know, like, that's where we are as a state. Like, you almost assume you have to get an attorney if you're in a car insurance claim, because it just happens so much, or it's advertised that way. You don't. Like, you don't need to do that at all. But it's like, it went from being like a last resort to almost like the first resort on claims. Like, it just got that popular in Florida. So I don't know if that helps like paint the picture a little bit more, but it's really like when you're disputing the claim and the carrier's not budging, you know, litigation. That's like the last step to try and put it in, you know, you make your case, they make theirs, and a judge makes a ruling.
So obviously advertising is probably a huge part of that, because I agree with you. I see that everywhere. Is there sort of like specific things in Florida that have primed litigation to be the first step?
Yeah. I'm, you know, candidly, I'm probably not as well read on this as some people are, but like my view of it, like my idea of it is, you got Florida brought on a couple things. One thing was called one-way attorney's fees. One-way attorney's fees basically mean that the loser pays everybody's attorney's fees. So, you know, if you lose the case, if you're the carrier, you pay not just your attorney's fees, but the plaintiff's attorney's fees as well. It was very easy to, or that's really motivating, I think, for an attorney.
Yeah,
right?
It's like you have zero loss.
Because you're not relying on this client to have to pay you. Like, if you feel like you got a case, you're like, I'm paid. Like, we're going to do this. So that's really motivating to kind of go after maybe more of those types of things, or advertise for more of those things. And then Florida also had built in to its laws like the ability to have a fee multiplier. So you could ask the judge, like you can go to them and say, hey, this is a really complex case. You know, this is insurance. I think I should I should be able to charge 2-3 times my normal fee for this, and judges would grant that. So, you know, not only are you getting paid, you're getting paid a multiplier. You know, the necessity of which can be debated. I don't know if it's always necessary, but yeah, I mean, that, you know, put those two things together, I think there's a lot of motivation to have those types of cases and have more of them, you know, as a firm.
And is that specific to Florida?
That was, yeah. I'm sure there were other states that dealt with like similar stuff. I don't know, you know, it comes in waves where I don't know if it's exploited. It seems like such a harsh word, but like, yeah, like I don't know if it's gamified the same way, but I mean there was some real momentum with that in Florida.
So like most people would assume that the problems from the insurance companies are coming from natural disasters like hurricanes, but really it sounds like it's more of a litigation problem than it is.
I mean, Florida has claims and it has a high volume of claims, right? And that does, you know, provide a strain, but like I think the financial strain from what we can tell as agents working was like it's the cost of a claim is blown up because a third party is involved. Like that's what started happening in Florida, and it started happening at such a volume that, you know, if like your data shows you that a roof claim should cost on average $13,000. But once third parties gets involved, you know, now we're closer to like $50,000-$60,000, and you do that enough times, you know, they're a business, and they're not accounting on premiums for what's going out the door on claims at that point. And premiums aren't something they can always just snap their fingers and raise to match that. Like you have to get state approval at some point. So it's a much slower process sometimes to get it to match. We're starting to kind of see it match, and I think that's what led to it being so highly publicized was, you know, our premiums went up, right? And we're seeing a way higher dollar amount in average premium in Florida, and that's when it really started to, I think, catch enough momentum with like state and lawmakers to sit down and be like, hey, we got to address something.
Got to do something about this. Cool. Well, I mean, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
My mom just walked in. You want to come say hello?
Actually, I want to say, I don't know if I should stand up or not, but hey, it's great to see you.
The number. That's what I always
It's great to see you. Likewise.
Do you want to hop in here?
It's up to you.
Because you got some good questions that it sounds like you've already sort of thought through with.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Well, and I don't know what you've covered already, so I don't want to re-up.
Well, that's fine,
Yeah,
and we'll
through.
tag you in. You can go through some of these questions. Especially, I just told him I had food poisoning yesterday. I feel like my brain's firing on like 2 cylinders.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, man, he's doing great for a guy that.
Of course
he
is.
He's down and out for
he's a
food
natural
poisoning.
at it.
Well, we haven't gone on, over anything too specific, but basically.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we even got to really your first question.
We didn't
that was written down on here. I was just kind of giving some context of
It's
just
crazy.
the marketplace, like where we're at, and maybe like the summarized version of how we got here. Which ironically, like we had a conversation about it before we even jumped on camera. So yeah, there was. I think we've talked more about that than like any of the specific questions.
Well, and you know, for our viewers, it's mainly about, you know, everybody knows their budget, their specific income that they're working with, and all of a sudden, home insurance is double.
You know, you actually raise a good point about like the predictability of it, because we've left that space where, like, you know, longtime realtors, mortgage lenders.
Sorry.
No problem.
We can hand that back and forth.
Oh, okay, good.
I don't know if you're in frame. The whole widen this up.
Yeah,
They don't need
we can adjust the whole thing, man, if you want. I can slide this chair.
We like, so half the time they like the fact that we just change up in the middle of it and it's all natural.
Or I could sit on the couch and someone else in a chair.
No, we'll put you. We're gonna.
Is this okay?
Yeah, that way we can attack you from both sides.
Hey, man, no problem.
The meat of this.
But yeah, I guess pass the
I'll
mic
keep
back and
these
forth.
just because it'll remind me. But
he's squirming a little bit because he comes from production, so he's like, you know.
Yeah, like
I pride myself.
No, man, dude, this is the beauty of it. Like, everybody else gets nervous because they're like, should I talk now, or like, are we on or off? And it's like, I get it, man. You can edit all this. It's great.
Well, and we don't
fine.
edit a lot. And one of the things that I think they appreciate is we are not a set up.
It's not too highly produced.
What's it called when you not coordinate, but we're not. God, I just used it the other day. We're impromptu. I mean, we just have a conversation. We're not scripted. We've got
Not scripted,
questions because our
I love this format, and it's like I'm so glad it's more popular now with like podcasts and content. Just having a conversation.
People have gotten smarter too, and it's just like you can tell when something's highly edited. It's almost less trustworthy now.
A little bit, yeah.
We're like, now it's like we can't hide anything. If you walk in, we're hanging the mic down. It's like, what are you gonna hide? You know what I mean? You can't.
Well, and it's their conversation with you too,
Sure, yeah.
as an insurance specialist. And there's some of our folks that are starting to struggle with their budget, and all of a sudden property taxes double, insurance doubles, their car insurance doubles, and it's like, this is frightening. We're supposed to be in the most inexpensive state to live in practically, and it's changing. And then from a real estate person's standpoint, you're listing a house that has a 2006 roof that's in decent shape,
Sure.
but insurance companies won't insure them.
Yeah, it's a wild place to be, right? Like, it's such a weird position to have somebody else tell you to fix something that's not broken, right?
Right.
And it's really like they're trying so desperately to stay away from things they think are going to turn into claims because of the problems they're having on claims. I mean, that's where all this comes from. It's like, it's claims data, and that's why it feels like less personal, because it's not about, it's becoming less and less about you and your risk, and when I say risk, I mean like the house, the client. It's less and less about you and your risk, and it's just more about, where's this located? What's our claims data for that area?
Right.
And, are you getting rated because of just where you live, like just the area of the state that you live in?
Right.
Just so they could quickly try to sift through and pre-underwrite this stuff. It's brutal.
Yeah. And then there's just the basic questions. Is there options in Florida? Because we keep hearing all these companies are leaving us.
Yeah.
And then, is the coast really that much more expensive than the center of the state?
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what we're all, everybody loves the center of the state thinking they'll have less insurance, but it's gone up quite a bit here.
Totally has. I think the coast is still maybe rated more aggressively. That could show in price. I don't want to say like unequivocally it's more expensive, because I think there are parts of the coast that are not more expensive than Central Florida right now. Central Florida has taken on heavy rating and almost different guidelines. Like, South Florida is the most strict guidelines in the state for insurance. It's been that way for kind of a while. That's like become the expectation. Central Florida more recently became the second tightest guidelines in the state for new business. Basically meaning like Central Florida has a different set of underwriting guidelines for new business than the rest of the state. And they say solo, it's 4 counties. It's generally Seminole, Orange, Lake, Osceola counties are the ones that we refer to as like kind of Central Florida. And yeah, it has different guidelines. I think in my experiences and conversations with like people from the companies, that's more because of claim volume and litigation volume. It's just very heavy in Central Florida.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we did have some, interesting times with hailstorms. And next thing you know, these, and we're talking, as you know, we're the 55 plus kind of focused niche, not just general population. And what they did, some of these roofing companies, after a hailstorm would go in, and they would just go from one to the next to the next to the next. And some of these roofing companies would talk them into signing over their claim. Yeah. And then they would charge more, get more money than they normally would. And I bet that really bummed out the insurance companies, because now they're paying more than they would normally if people did it. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. That's you're referring to what sounds like there's assignment of benefits. Like the companies try to talk you into signing an assignment of benefits that basically gives them the ability to represent you in the claim, like on your behalf. So they don't have to talk to you anymore. They could just talk directly to, like in your example, like a roofing company, right? Much easier for them, right? They get paid faster. They can get through the process quicker. They kind of cut out the middleman. It's not always poorly intentioned. It's not always bad intentioned. I was saying earlier, I'm a bit of an optimist to a fault. I'm also a bit empathetic to a fault. Like, at the end of the day, like, we're all business people. Like, you're a realtor. If you help somebody with their home and you want to knock on their neighbor's door, that's sometimes just good business, right? Like, you introduce yourself to them, you're marketing. Yeah, you're asking for the business. And I think these roofers, like, they're not like bad guys. Your insurance company's not a bad guy. They're just business people trying to do what helps them be successful at what they do. But the pitch, it became so easy, and maybe it got watered down to the point where you're knocking on somebody's door, and you're saying, hey, I don't know if you know, like, we helped your neighbor with their roof. They submitted a claim to their insurance company. You could probably do the same thing. And then that gets watered down over time to, hey, we can get you a free roof. You know, and it's like that's kind of where we got. And that's not necessarily true. People don't understand, you know, what if I submit this claim and it's denied? Now I'm carrying a claim on my claims record. You know, there's implications to the homeowner that even that roofer doesn't understand.
Right.
About just trying to submit the claim. Or what if you submit the claim and the carrier doesn't pay what the roofer thinks they should get paid, and then they can't get that money and it's just tied up as a claim. And then the way the past 2 years have gone, and again, this is kind of to your question about carriers leaving the state. This is more about carriers that went insolvent in Florida and had to close their doors. They had all these claims, unresolved claims from storms, right? Like all these claims went in, and now it's an unresolved claim, and that person might be trying to sell that house and buy a new house, and they have this open claim that they probably don't even care about anymore, never wanted to submit in the first place. And I dealt with dozens and dozens of those clients the last couple of years, and there's ways to work it all out, but it's massively inconvenient, and it's hard to have that conversation a year or two later, right, with people.
Yeah, it gets so complicated, and then it gets a little scary is all. So I guess it's just having a good insurance person to talk to when you're going through this.
Yeah, not to stampede you, but I do think, and I'll say it here because I say it all the time to people, even if I'm quoting and it's like, hey, I've got this quote and I've got another quote, I'm like, look, forget the carriers, right? We're in a period where it's a roller coaster. You may not be able to resolve your insurance for more than a year. You may just we may just be jumping to Band-Aids for a couple years. Find somebody that you like talking to, that you don't mind calling when you have a question, that's going to probably pick up when you call and answer your questions, to help just guide you, through this time, but through any time with your insurance. I'm biased, but I believe so strongly in just finding an agent or an agency with people that you feel like you can call, you trust them, and they'll answer your questions. And it's especially helpful in a claim situation. I think we are trying to position ourselves more and more as maybe a buffer, just like a place where you can just call and ask a question that maybe you want to ask your insurance company. But if you call and ask your insurance company, they might open a claim over the phone. You may not even know it. And you really don't want that to happen. Like, right. You want to protect your claims history at all costs right now, right, because they're rating for that. So if you're submitting a claim, and we can return to that, if you're submitting a claim, you want to be darn sure that you want to submit that claim, because you're going to carry it for 5 years with you as a customer. So you call your agent and you just ask them the question. And if we can answer it, great. If we can't, we'll be honest and upfront with you. We won't try to answer something we don't understand. And then there's there's a lot of good companies out there that are probably going to work on this claim on behalf of the carrier. We work with a few of them. Joe Taylor Restoration comes to mind. They work with a lot of agencies. These are people that can go to the house if you got water pouring out somewhere. They can go to your house. They could dry it out. They're not going to charge you or do something that's going to cost you money without asking you. And they can advise you before you have to talk to the company. They could say, hey, I think this whole job is going to cost $500. I don't know if that's below your deductible. That may not be something you want to submit as a claim.
Right. And so again, so that's getting people with knowledge that you trust and you can talk to, which is agents too, realtors that you trust and can talk to, and that are on your side, very service oriented, which the world's kind of getting away from service oriented. So again, why we like some folks over others that will take our folks, needs into consideration and just be of assistance. Well, the other thing is, as far as some of these questions are the cost. Now, do you see it continually? I mean, it like doubled. Mm-hmm. Is that going to happen again? I mean, people that are thinking, should we move to Florida? Is what's going to happen with the insurance industry?
Yeah, great question. I don't think it's going to continue to rise. Again, this is one agent's opinion, but they made some pretty seismic adjustments to Florida's laws to try and pull us out of this financially. The reason you haven't seen it instantly is, especially like a lot of this being targeted at litigation. When you pass a law in December, it doesn't take effect till July in Florida. So, what do you think happened in the months between that law being announced and passed and July? hundreds of thousands of lawsuits went in, you know, to try and get under the new like window.
That's crazy.
And so that's a unique
Such a
and
game.
different strain on the carriers, and they have to deal with that. And that's car insurance too. That's why you see the bump in car insurance, because they went through the same thing. So the carriers are dealing with that, and they're going to be dealing with that. And that's going to have to wash out. And so the premiums did continue to rise. They're still accounting for money going out the door on the other side.
Gotcha.
Which is the nature of it. But I think that a few of the things that you'll see new people come into the market in Florida. Because of that law passing, there's some interest to be an insurance company in Florida. And if you're a completely brand new like property insurer in Florida, you're not dealing with claims from the last couple of years. So you have a bit of a leg up, you know, if you have some funding behind you and you're not dealing with claims, and now you're operating in these new laws, you have some confidence, and you can come in and you can be like really competitive right away. There's a downside to that. Some people want to have somebody with more tenure. I get it. But you could see some really competitive rates come out of something like that. And we're already seeing that. Like, we're already seeing the new carriers kind of come in. So that's one thing that I think you'll see. And then when these carriers kind of work through what they're working through, they're a business. Like, they can't just not take on new business forever. So they'll see what the average rate is. Their rates will adjust. It's a market, you know. Like, they will, if they want to operate, they're going to have to be competitive in certain spots.
So what crossed my mind was, okay, so you've got new laws passed. People are submitting claims left and right to try to get before this time window, and so that'll probably stop the sort of increase in prices of your insurance. But then would it get stuck at that higher prices because people are paying that? But then the newer companies coming in after the fact, not hitting this wave of submissions, is probably then going to create another competitive market.
Yeah, there's it's going to be like a seesaw, like I think a lot of industries operate where, like to your point, you know, it's going to be hard for a carrier to say, like, maybe, hey, lower that rate if people are paying it. But, you know, if the market changes as such that rate's no longer competitive, carriers react as well. So it's
the
like
new guys are going to save us all in Florida.
Well, you know, I don't. I understand the perception there. I don't know if it's exactly that. I think, like, there are some carriers that have operated, that were started in Florida and have operated in Florida for decades.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like we learned a lot about those carriers, like, because they got through a very hard time with us, and they're still open, right? Like, they're still writing new business. Maybe it's a little more expensive, but they didn't close their doors, and there's something to be said about that. So there's definitely some players in Florida that have been players throughout this very hard period that we've been in, and as agents, you remember that. You remember who was kind of like there for you.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to help people get into homes too, right? Like, we work with a lot of new home buyers, people closing.
Still moving to Florida, so I think again, and I always bring it down to, it's your math. You know your budget.
Yeah.
Find out what your costs are. You'll kind of know that they should be adjusting after these storms. I got a quick question that just crossed my mind. The car insurance doubled. Is that because of the storm claims on all the cars that got washed out during?
Well, that would fall on your car insurance. I don't know if it's totally because of that. I think it's more because of just dealing with like lawsuits that came. Florida, you know, it made a massive change. They call it like tort law. It's like kind of that pain and suffering lane of litigation. Like, you know, I had this much pain and suffering. I feel like I'm owed this much money. I'm really over summarizing. I'm not an attorney. No. My wife went to law school, so I heard the term tort, and like I have a loose understanding of it. So just bear with me. But I think that's more of like why we saw the car insurance rates kind of jump this past year the way we did. It's been a hard conversation to have with people. There's carriers that are competitive, and I don't know if you don't mind me staying on the soapbox for a minute. Some things I tell people that call in or existing clients of mine that either want to move our car insurance or shop their car insurance that they have with us. We'll take a look. And there's some factors with car insurance that can change relatively rapidly. One is, your accident history, right? But accidents fall off after 5 years with most companies, 3 years with some. So we have carriers in the marketplace that will only look back 3 years. And you may be closer to 3 years away from a claim or an accident than you realize. So sometimes if you just hang in there a couple more months and then remarket yourself, you might have an opportunity to save yourself, and be a safe driver, of course. You have an opportunity to be in a good spot. There's credit gets factored in. So like the client's credit actually affects their rate with car insurance. They take that into consideration for how aggressively they rate you. So if you can do some things to help your credit, you can watch all of your insurance kind of go down a little bit over time. That's a big factor that I think a lot of people don't realize about their insurance on the home and the auto side. And getting married, buying a home, those two life changes in particular can be like massive discounts. For some reason, car insurance
Even for old people, because a lot of us are still getting married again.
I think your age helps. So as you as you age, I think that's way more of a help. I'm talking those people in their 20s. You're almost you're still like a teenager sometimes in the eyes of these carriers, right? Like there's not enough info about you as a driver yet that they feel good about not rating you like you're about to have a claim.
Yeah.
So I think the age is super helpful as well. You're going to get older, so you age, your credit gets a little better, you buy a house, you could totally change yourself as a risk on the car insurance side. And I think a lot of people don't realize that.
So another thing that I think we like about your company is that you will bundle. Like we've heard you say, well, let's bundle your insurance and you can kind of check it out. I'm going to tell you this, and this is from history with me with buyers, but they'll say, oh, I've been with State Farm for 40 years. I'm sure I'm getting the best rate, but they probably haven't really checked into it because they've been with State Farm for 40 years, and it's easier just to stay with State Farm, although I think State Farm is one of the highest insurance companies around here.
Yeah, I mean, Florida's just a roller coaster, and I think even as we get through this period that we're in, it'll always be a roller coaster, just like the way we're exposed, right? Like to perils. And on the driving side, it's just bad drivers. Like we just have like a high accident rate in Florida. We are not a state known, and the data supports it, for being good drivers. And so that could be totally out of your control too, right? So just being in Florida puts you at risk as a driver, unfortunately, out there on the roads. So yeah, like I think it's always going to be a roller coaster, and that's why like we're an independent agency, and I think that's why the independent model works so well for Florida. It doesn't work in every state. Like
right.
An independent agent may not be the most popular choice in some other states, but in Florida it is, and that's because we're kind of like a broker, so we can sort of keep you moving to wherever the wind and tide is pulling you.
Right.
Because Florida's just a unique state with its insurance market.
So you and I probably should have clarified this beforehand, but you're an independent agent. So if I come to you, you're gonna search for basically the best deal for me.
Yeah.
And then as things change, like you said, I can hop on the phone with you and ask questions without submitting a claim or throwing up any flags with the insurance companies. Do you guys have some systems in place too to kind of check over time if there's better opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we in particular have our servicing team is all in house. So they're employees, they're actual people that like I know, as opposed like some people are trying to lean on I don't know what you call it, but like I think there's services, or you could send that like out of country. Even the carriers do this a little bit on their phones, right? So when you call in, like you can just have like less expensive labor. But we have an in-house service team because they are kind of like in-house agents and in-house like account managers, and they do annual reviews, for clients. So there's a way to prompt like 90 days out from a home policy renewing. They try to reach out and set up a time to hop on the phone and do a review. That's for their insurance. That's also because of the client, like your life could change. You could be adding a pool to your house. Like things could have happened in the past year that maybe you didn't think you needed to call us, and we just kind of uncover it there. So that's a system that we've tried to come up with. It's gotten really hard to do it when the market's as tough as it is, because you have more people calling in with questions. You have more people running into issues with their carriers, getting letters and things like that. So you have you much heavier phone volume at a time like this, and we try to delegate it as best we can. Sometimes that falls back on the agent. Like the way our model is, like our agents are a little more like new business facing side. So like the agent, which is me, is really trying to help people for the most part get into a home. You know, we work with a lot of people on new home closings, and we are like dialed into either helping you get into your home, or if you've got a renewal coming up and it's not with us, like, okay, is this a problem we can solve? And, you know, like, we're putting all of our energy into there. And then I'm kind of like the greeter. I bring you into the agency, and then once you're within the agency, you're going to have access to a whole team of people, like a fleet of people that are going to be monitoring your stuff, keeping an eye on it. I don't go away. You could always call and email me, but you just have much more support as you're a client and as your life changes. I'll mention now, right now, because of how difficult the market's been, we decided as an agency to create more of a preferred servicing experience for our home and auto clients. So we call it like an agency bundle, and it's just a little more VIP service. It's a service we used to try to provide to everybody, but it got too hard to be able to say yes to every single person. So like home and auto, those are clients that we like to have. It helps us, you know, do what we strive to do with them, and so they get a little bit of a more VIP experience. They get their own phone number where they can call and talk directly to a person like right away. Their wait times are like more like 2 to 3 days as opposed to 2 or 3 weeks, you know, with remarketing requests. And then we have home only clients, but they just go into kind of a different lane of servicing.
Okay, well,
Awesome.
that makes
that's awesome.
sense.
Yeah, just a choice we've had to make recently. Hopefully, you know, we can go back to doing our best for everybody at some
So
point.
you also then shop auto insurance policies, and are they that much different, or do you end up using probably the same companies?
Yeah,
I'm asking you tough questions.
No,
I'm just
this is
talking.
this is great. I loved using same companies. It's getting harder to do so. What you see oftentimes in Florida when the market gets tough, probably similar comparisons. What was it, like 2002, 2004? Massive hurricane. I always get confused on which one it was.
2004. There's like 3 in a row. Charlie and
Yeah.
there's like
I think Charlie is the one that most people reference from that time. But you saw a lot of the national carriers. So like the ones I always tell people on the phone, like the ones you see during commercials on football games, because there's so many insurance company advertisements during football season. But yeah, like those national carriers like Progressive, Allstate, State Farm. You see those carriers kind of get real cagey about their book in Florida because they're national. Like they're due home insurance everywhere, and if you're bleeding money in Florida, maybe you stop bleeding money in Florida for a while, you know. And I think that's the highly publicized like carriers leaving that we see. It's a lot of the national carriers. Those same national carriers are the ones that offer car insurance as well. Florida's got a bit of a boutique market of carriers that either started in Florida and only write in Florida, or started in Florida and used to only write in Florida and have now expanded to maybe a couple more states. But they're carriers you never heard of. You don't see billboards for them. You don't see TV ads for them.
Gotcha.
We know
It
them
doesn't
because
mean
we've worked
they're
with
not
them.
good companies and pay on
It doesn't mean they're shady. It doesn't mean they're going to screw you on a claim. You just never heard of
It
them.
costs a lot to get that little lizard up there during football season. That's why they're leaving Florida.
I tell people that I feel the same way. I almost get annoyed because I have to sit there and watch the ads of bundle your home and auto, right? It's like every commercial break, bundle your home and auto, bundle your home and auto. And I know for a fact that you can't right now in Florida. And I'm a Florida resident, and there's a million other Florida residents watching these same commercials like, oh, just bundle my home and auto. And it's like, I got to be the one that delivers the bad news on the phone to the person. Like, they're not going to do it. So anyways, kind of back to your question, the national carriers, Progressive, Allstate, State Farm, Farmers, you know, those are the ones that offer multiple lines, and the car insurance being one of them. When the market's as tough as it is, we just have way less of those opportunities, and that's the way it is right now. You're probably not bundling the home unless it's a brand new home. Maybe with some of those carriers, you're probably not bundling those two things together, or it's something you do right now, but maybe it's not a permanent solution the way it is in some other states, unfortunately.
Well, it's just a lot to navigate.
Yeah.
So, and then the roof thing is big with our resale customers, and then our buyers coming here. If they get a house that has a 2006 roof, and I would say 50% of our buyers in the 55 plus are cash buyers. They don't have to get insurance because they can close without it, or they can insure their roof later. But is it hard? Are most of these companies cutting the line at 10-year roofs or 15-year
That's a good
roofs?
question. I'd say, I'd say the most open is probably 10 or newer. 15 and newer, 20 and newer still have options.
Okay.
State of Florida.
Still options with a 20-year-old roof?
Yeah, 20 and newer. But think of it as like one piece of the jigsaw puzzle. So like, because that's kind of what placing somebody with an insurance company is right now. It's a total jigsaw puzzle. So that's just one piece of it. So you got a 2006 roof, but, or I'm sorry, we're looking at somebody with a 20 or newer roof, but water heater is another big one. And if your water heater is now like 25 years old, well, maybe now I can't put you with that company that was 20 and newer on roofs, or you have 2 water claims in your history. Maybe now I can't put you with that company that is 20 and newer on roofs. You want to do it as a rental, you want to do it as a short-term rental. Maybe now I can't put it with that same company that's 20 or newer.
Okay.
There's all these guidelines, and you're trying to make it all fit. And the roof's one piece of it, and it's one that's talked about a lot. There's options for it, but it's like everything else has to fit, right?
Okay, well, that's good to know. So that's not necessarily a hard no. It's just, it depends. There's other pieces to that.
I tell people, it's never too early to start asking the questions, right, or have somebody start looking into the insurance. If a home is 20 years or older, getting the inspections and getting them in front of an insurance agent fast is massively helpful for this exact conversation. It's like, let's uncover everything we can about these applications as early as we can, so that if there is something to address or there is some context to provide, we can do it at a time that maybe you're still in your inspection period, maybe, or if you already have insurance on the house, maybe you're not a day away from a renewal, or a week away from a renewal. You have some time to either address some things or have a conversation about, is this the right move for me right now, or do I just stay where I am?
I've got a question.
Okay.
This one's going to be probably tough, but I know a lot of the people watching this can be like 2 years out. They're considering retiring in Florida, especially as the winter comes around and they're stuck in the snow while they're watching these videos.
That's pretty
And I know this is like an impossible question to probably answer, but like, where do you see it in a couple of years from now?
I think we're going to be in a better spot. I truly do. I think we have to be. I mean, like, the alternative is we're still like not at a place as an industry where we can operate this way. Like, it's already affecting the home market, and if it continues to do that, it's such a big part of, I think, Florida's economy. Like home sales and like this real estate market, that we can't continue this way. So even if what's been done doesn't totally like solve it, maybe in the next few years, lawmakers are pressed. They're gonna try something else, or the industry's pressed. Yeah, like they'll try to come up with some sort of solution. I hope we don't end up with like state insurance for everybody. Like I don't think. Like I that's just a personal opinion. Like I feel more like I'd rather the market be a little more like free market and regulate itself. Like we put a lot of policies with Citizens. Florida has a state insurer of last resort that they fund and operate called Citizens, and it's like a safety net that came out of that time, out of 2004, to just make sure people can get through hurricane without insurance. And Citizens became the spot over the last few years for so many homes, just because of either price or eligibility. Like, you just weren't finding it on the private market for some areas. And so, I mean, maybe I'd prefer that we didn't lean too far in that direction. I've been asked the question, like, would that be better? Like, is that where we should be? I don't think so. I think we want it to be a market, but I do. I think in a couple years we are going to be in a better spot. I just always think of that roller coaster analogy. There's peaks and valleys, and Florida will continue to go through them. But the way things are today aren't the way they're going to be forever in both sense. So
you think we're at the bottom of a valley right now, though?
Yeah, I think we
trend.
absolutely scraped like rock bottom. I don't know if we ever totally got there, and that may seem like an insane thing to say, but there were some times where we thought we were going to be there, and some solutions came out from smarter people than me, and it kind of got us through those times. But yeah, I think we're coming out of like the tough spot. I think we're headed for some greener pastures.
Well, and I still think real estate in general is less expensive in Florida than a lot of states.
Yeah, that's the feedback I get.
General real estate price. So you got to weigh your math between what your house is going to cost you somewhere else, and then the difference in price. adds up to a lot of extra insurance over the years. So just do the math.
That's a great point.
Yeah, well, but plus you got to pay to be in the best state in the United States.
Yeah.
I guess
I mean,
so, yeah.
December and flip-flop. January and
January, yeah,
flip-flops.
just
I did have a
barely.
leather jacket on and flip-flops today, but anyway, I try not to wear socks
tough
if
to beat.
possible.
Yeah. It's a lot easier, I think, to stomach that when you got the sun out most days. You know, it's a little more positive.
So wind mitigations, sometimes we suggest to our sellers to get a wind mitigation on their house. Does that help if they've got one of those inspections before the house goes on the market? Do you think?
Man, that's a great question.
I'm just curious if it matters.
Yeah,
or
really
does
good
the
question.
insurance
Here's what I'll
company-
tell you. So the insurance company is going to accept a wind mitigation for the owner of the home. So if it's like a seller getting a wind mitigation inspection, buyer's going to have to get that in their name, or they're going to have to pay for their own to actually use the credits from that.
Okay.
It's helpful to know the credits that you would get from a wind mitigation inspection. That is a big pricing thing that like helps us. If we're quoting it, it helps us rate it right on price. But as an agent, like I can assume some wind mitigation credits, especially in counties I'm familiar quoting with, where like I have a better understanding of like the code for newer roofs and what we normally see come through. I don't know. It's a cost to the seller that I don't know if the seller has to go through that cost
Okay,
specifically.
good to know.
But like the buyer, I would like the buyer to get their inspections done like ASAP. You know, like, and again, like if it's 20 years or older, the age of the home, 20 years or older, I think that's really the line where you're like, I need to get this 4-point in wind mitigation like yesterday.
Yeah.
Dumb person question. What's what's wind mitigation inspection?
A wind mitigation inspection, it kind of goes through the home and it looks in, I think 4 or 5 major areas of how resistant the home is to wind damage. And it looks at how the trusses of the roof are attached to the foundation of the home. It looks at like what's called opening protection from water. So like the windows and doors can have like some extra sealing. There's a layer of water protection you could put underneath a roof covering, and all of that turns into credits on your insurance. So like if you have this report and it shows you have this, and this, every insurance company gives us the opportunity to put that info in, and there's different discounts associated with each of those things.
And
A lot of newer homes then I'm assuming are built with
to different
A lot of them have assumed credits because there's an understanding of like the code that they're built to, so their credits are assumed about it. You can get a wind mitigation inspection and maybe you carry higher credits, but the other side of that coin is maybe you carry lower credits than what the carrier's assuming about the home, and now you got to go with those because you have the report.
Yeah.
So I just tell people
you can't lose the report.
I don't think
We're honest Indians out there. It is what it is. We just have to know what it is.
I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze on a home newer than 20 years.
So if you're getting an older home, wind mitigation.
Yeah, it could be a drastic difference in the price. It's almost a requirement from us. Like we're like, you don't want to pay what you're going to pay without having this report. Yeah.
And most of our 55 plus communities, I mean, there are some that were built in the late 80s, but they're, I guess that's 30 and 40 years old they could be, but they're pretty solid. And they're, solid homes. It's just, it is what it is.
And I will say, like, there's programs that are getting like better and better at improving your credits in certain spots. Like the attachment of the trusses to the foundation. That used to be like a very intrusive thing to change about an existing home. Like it's almost something that you have to address when you're building the home. But now they really have more and more programs that are a lot less intrusive, where they refer to it as adding a nail. Like you hear that term sometimes, adding a nail to the home. All that means is like taking you from one nail is generally considered like a toenail credit, and that's like one of the lowest ones you could have. But if they could change that connection and take it over the truss entirely and put another nail in it, it puts you in a different category, either like clips or single wraps, and it becomes a higher credit. And they could do it relatively inexpensive, and it's turning into more savings on the insurance. So there's programs out there like that where maybe it makes sense for like a home in the 70s, 80s, 60s, have somebody come by, add a nail, and it kind of changes the credit that you have there.
That could
without replacing the roof or something like that.
This is just getting like a
I
lot of
know.
information.
It is.
But again, it's why you end up trusting somebody that you can chat with about your own puzzle.
Yeah. Like I'm hard,
pieces.
and as funny as it sounds, like I'm hardly even an expert on insurance because it's changing so fast.
Right.
And like we work in it every day, and even we can't keep tabs
Right.
on every change that's happening. Like I get surprised all the time by a new guideline, a new underwriting thing or quirk, and we just have to adjust to it. And I think someone in your position, right, like as a realtor, you get looked at like, do you have the answers to all my questions? And insurance is just one of those things that I don't think it's fair for anyone that doesn't work in insurance to have to try to keep tabs on what's happening with insurance. There's so much.
Can't.
Yeah.
We can't. And we're huge. My team's huge on going, okay, I know my lane, but I also know people that I trust that know their lane, and we'll have them talk to you. Same with mortgage brokers. People say, well, what's the rates doing right now? I'm like, well, let me put you in touch with
There you
somebody
go.
that's watching it daily.
Hey, that's a great question. Let me get an answer to that for you.
Yeah, but we all work with some phenomenal folks that can help walk you through that. Off topic of our typical real estate, there's a lot of manufactured home communities. Some are rental lots, which we don't handle as real estate agents, but some of them are manufactured homes on owned real estate, so they have a tangible asset of the lot. But is the whole tie-down roof thing a different thing, and can they get insurance?
Yeah, great question. It's more narrow for mobile manufactured right now than it is for a lot of the other types of properties you can have. More narrow meaning less carriers willing to do it, and maybe some tougher guidelines here and there, but the price is also like it's more imbalanced in my opinion. Like it's in some cases we just see like they get rated as a heavy risk just because if a storm were to like truly hit, like if you were to get hit by a hurricane, they just have data that those have been more like total loss type claims than maybe some other types of properties. And
so their insurance is even higher than a
it can be expensive. Yeah, it can be expensive. It can be tough to find. It can be a mix of both. I tell people it's kind of a niche market right now. Like we have options for it, but I don't know if we're always like the best spot for mobile manufactured. It's like if I needed insurance and I had horse stalls on my property, there might be an agent out there that like kind of specializes in that and has relationships for something like that. Mobile manufacturers turning into a bit more of like a niche, and there are spots out there that specialize in it and do really well in it. And honestly, the way I handle it, like I will quote it. Oftentimes, I will check our market, and if I can't find it, I will. I'm always compiling a list of like the places just outside of what I have available that might be able to do it. And I just try to give people a leg up and say, hey, why don't you call this?
Yeah.
Instead of you having to Google search something, like, hey, try these, see what you can find. It's outside my market, but they might work for you.
Yeah, perfect.
And I think there's there's a conversation with mobile manufacturer that comes up a lot about whether or not you have a mortgage on it, because sometimes there's insurance you could get, but right now, like what's available and maybe what's cost effective is not the type, like the best insurance in terms of like the depth of the coverage. But if you don't have, like the mortgage has insurance requirements. So if like you have a mortgage, I kind of know that it has to go, like we have to find certain things. If you don't have a mortgage, you could have a conversation about, you may take on a little more of an exposure, but you may save yourself a little bit of money. And I'll walk you through, or anyone, a good agent will walk you through kind of what that is so you can make an educated choice about it.
Yeah.
But maybe you have more options if you're buying cash than if you're doing a mortgage, because the requirements, they have requirements for your insurance too.
So bottom line is it's all somewhat daunting, but not really. You just get people that you trust to have a conversation with, and then knowledge is power, and then you just make decisions that fits your budget and lifestyle.
I think like go in and just think right now, like I don't like go in with the expectation that I'm going to try to find something for this first year, and then I'm probably going to have a conversation about it after this first year.
Okay, that's good
don't
to
try
know.
to solve your lifetime
Your whole
insurance
lifetime-
problems.
Thank you for that.
When
That
you close
makes
on the
sense.
home, like let me close on this home. Let me solve this first year, and hopefully, like I like these people enough that I will feel comfortable reaching out again in a year. And either if there's something else available, we'll move it, or we stay there. We're in the best spot. But yeah, take it smaller perspectives.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but time goes faster as you go older.
Yeah, I'm learning.
We'll be like, we'll be solidifying our insurance today for the year, and it's going to be tomorrow that we're talking to you again.
That is abundantly true. Yeah,
It's so true.
I think there were some people I talked to probably a year ago where I was like, certain things might be available a year from now, and they're calling back and they're like, hey, it's a year from now. I'm like, what? Already? What happened?
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. Well, J. Michael, do you have anything else? It's we just wanted to touch base with this. You probably did it at the intro because it's what's in the news and everybody's talking about higher
This was awesome.
insurance
I think it
rates.
shed a lot of light on it.
Yeah.
So appreciate you taking the time to do that. If you want to plug yourself too, so if you want to ask questions.
Yeah, my pleasure. So I work with Erb Young Insurance. We're an independent insurance agency. We're headquartered in Orlando. We have now we have a couple locations around the state, kind of growing a little bit. I'm the team lead of our Orlando agents. So kind of a handful of agents that operate out of HQ there. And I can't, I'll say it again because I believe strongly in it, just find somebody that you like, to kind of be your advocate for insurance, like take the carrier out of it a little bit. The carriers are advertising to you and I get that, but just find somebody that you feel like you can trust, almost like a stockbroker. Like, it's a market out there and we're trying to just navigate the market and find somebody that can help you navigate the market and don't feel too attached to the carriers, but feel very attached to your agency, because I think that's the relationship that's pulling a lot of people through right now.
Well, and you got the inside scoop on a lot of the companies where we could even come close. And we don't have enough time to figure all that stuff out. I can tell you that.
Yeah, and it's a conversation you don't want to have sometimes. And don't be scared, about Florida too. I know it's so highly publicized.
It's fantastic. Again.
Yeah, it's so highly publicized, and it was so much negative news for a long time. But I do think we're entering a play. Like, we've already seen some carriers open their capacity, like Age of the Home, just say, hey, I'm writing new business in Central Florida again. Like, that happened in the last 2 months, and I felt like we went 2 years without that news. So it's kind of like seeing like a little flower pop through, like the rocks. Like, you're like, oh man, it's been so long since I saw flowers here. and it is a nice feeling, and I think it's a sign that we're headed in a better direction.
Well, Florida's a resilient state, and it's a great place to be. We love it.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Cool.
It's all about quality to me, not quantity. So we got a lot more sunshine and outdoorsy time, and that's my lifestyle. So Florida's a great fit for me.
Couldn't agree more.
Anything else?
Awesome. So is there, like, do you want people to, if they have questions or if they're interested in reaching out to you?
Oh yeah, I mean,
His
you want me to just put your information on the screen?
yeah, I think that would be really helpful. Just kind of visually see it, but call, email, our website. We have a lot of channels to kind of like request a quote or
throw that up
look
on
for
the
some
screen.
help or advice. Yeah, and
Awesome.
you could have a relationship. Like, you could email me directly. You could go through like some of the more public channels. Erb Young Insurance. It's a quick search away from a lot of that info.
Beautiful. We'll throw that up on the screen.
We'll definitely throw it up on the screen because Urban Young, I'm picturing URBAN.
I know, right?
Urban Young.
When I say it on the phone, I
Urban
think that
cowboy.
every single time. When I have to tell people over the phone, I'm like, it sounds so much like Urban Young. It's 2 names, ERB, Herb, and like that ampersand sign, Young.
Awesome. Well, Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Hopefully this has been informative. We appreciate this.
That was my pleasure.
Glad to be back. 2024, it's going to be a good year.
Yeah, and you know how to reach us, folks, if you're looking for that realtor that you want to work with. And that's explore55plus.com. We have an email and a phone number that will be in the description. And if you reach the phone during business hours, Monday through Friday, you will get a response at the next business day. So forgive us for not being on the phone at 9 o'clock at night. That's it.
Cool. See ya. That's it. That was awesome, man.
Oh yeah, my pleasure, man. Thanks.